Abso Day 1 fans are here. Put in the comments your favorite song, verse, or project from Ab. The following incidents are based upon true events and are retold through the best of my recollection. Thank you to everybody listening, your first time or you have been here before. I'd like to thank you. I am introducing something to the channel. Monday Morning Medicine will include interesting first-hand stories from my perspective. These will be my experiences I've actually lived through with people you may or may not have heard of. You have not heard these stories because these are my personal experiences. I did not hear this on a podcast or read an article and thought it sounded cool. This channel will only engage in uplifting and empowering others, as putting people down is not my MO. There may be people who are doubtful that these stories are true, and that's fine, but I really got no reason to take a creative license here, as life simply happens. There will be irrefutable facts stated in this story that could not have came from an imaginary source. I present to many of you the night I hung out with Abso. The preface for this is I've graduated from Carson Senior High School in Carson, California. Both of us were in an advanced student organization named Humanitas. I was one grade ahead. Has he ever mentioned being in Humanitas before? I've not heard it, but maybe he did. There are other stories I'll tell later about the first time Abso heard me rap, the times we battled, and maybe some other rapidy things. Let me know if you'd like to hear any of those stories. Let's get into why you're here. This takes place, I believe, 2006. Pretty confident in that because I was no longer working for the Ralphs on Crenshaw and Slauson, which I worked in February of 2005 and quit in 2005, November. Sidebar, yes, I do also have Nipsey Hussle stories. I graduated 2004. Ab graduated 2005. And we used to chat on AIM. Nothing special, just about rap, careers, music. He would kill time while working at Magic Disc. Ab was also the guy who told me about Kendrick Lamar and J-Rock and sent me their MySpace pages. Ab was not yet officially TDE, but he was doing music with them often. At this time, Abso was with Street Beat, and you die-hard Abso fans will remember him mentioning them. Some of the Pack Music crew will tell you about them, and some of them went to high school with me too. Really great group of guys. They had a crew called Top Notch, which included more people outside of music, and you may have heard references to some of the earlier music. Really nice dudes, nothing bad to say about anybody. Now, up until this point, MySpace was growing. I was new to it, and AIM was huge. I mean, everybody had AIM. I realized that class reunions won't be the same because you could see what your classmates were actively doing with their lives if they had accounts. I digress. Ab is completely complimentary and was always extremely respectful of my pen, even telling me I am a genius amongst other things. Majority of our conversations were pleasant. Let me paint the scene. I was living in Gardena, California. My mother just moved to Illinois. She had a friend who was staying and then moved to Arizona. My friend, who happens to be her son, was there also for a period of time. At the time this story takes place, I was just there by myself, doing my thing. One day, nothing special, Ab and I are chatting, and it was not a pleasant chat. I won't say what was said or if Ab remembers this. I don't know. Maybe he does. But I know I was upset, and I cannot recall the exact exchange, but I decided I needed some air before I lost my temper. Now, while walking to get a Snapple, I contemplated writing an Abso diss record, and I had a couple bars pop up. After purchasing and enjoying my delicious beverage, Ab messages me to call him. Can't recall if he left his number or asked for mine, but we spoke, and I think he could tell the temperature was abnormal from our previous encounters. Even after we battled, we were very cordial and polite to one another. We spoke, and he instantly throws it out there, went something along the lines of, "Where you stay at, let's hang out." I was caught completely off guard and immediately disarmed from previous ill intentions of writing a vicious diss record. Sidebar, I don't even think he knows this. I don't think we ever talked about this because we definitely didn't talk about that night because we had a blast that night. Now, he tells me what time he's going to get off work and what time he's going to pick me up. Now, I am not a people person and I do not like to hang out. I like to do introvert things. This was the first time I hung out with Ab outside of school. I mean, I bought one of the Beef DVDs and Ab's mixtape he put out before a lot of you heard of him. And before there was even a TDE while I lived in Inglewood back in 2005. I stopped by the shop. Now, I remember at this time, I was working out every day, cardio one day and resistance the next. I had a white hoodie with the Gary Payton Nike Zooms that ended up beating to death. Love those shoes. Shout out to Ricky who let me have those. Ab asked why I was walking like Super Thug. So we head out, and I tell him he's welcoming Gardena, not that I run anything, because I don't. Never did. And he tells me he used to get his hair cut at Gardena, and he's always been welcome there. Now we're chopping it up, and we're either listening to Joe Budden or Lupe Fiasco on the way to Carson. I only remember this because at one point we listened to Joe, Lupe, or J-Rock, and that was it. We're headed towards the studio in Centerview in Carson, where Street Beat was. We get there, and Ab parks, and he asks if I can retrieve his marijuana that is conveniently located within his glove compartment. By this time, J-Rock's first mixtape is playing. Watt's Finest Part 1. It's fire. I'm impressed. We're smoking, and then the K-Dot song where he's talking about the R&B women come on, and I get out the car and start making weird movements that will look like dancing to the uneducated eye. Ab says, "Hey man, get in the car. We're in Centerview." So once the blunt is burnt down, we hit the judge's place, and Ab is texting some producer on his sidekick, and he's talking about a lyrical exercise record he wants to do. Now we get in there, and Judge, someone else, and Grim are there. Shout out to Grim. And he's recording. Ab introduces me, and I tell Grim I'm the guy who spoke with them on AIM. That's another story, as we had an interesting exchange. Inside the studio, picture this. There are photos of Ab-So across the wall and recording booth. Once Grim was finished, Ab recorded, and this was a while ago. He was reading the lyrics off his phone, if I could recall at the time. Remember, they were joking about some really tall rapper who was there, and they had to adjust the mic for him. Once Ab is done, he announces he has some beats from Alexis Carrington. This was the first batch of beats he had from her. He played the first couple seconds of a couple of them, and one of them gave everybody screwed up faces. He mentioned he was excited about working with her, and side note, she would end up doing a picture that on Long-Term Mentality, and I actually hit Alexis up on MySpace after this night, and I told Ab how this crazy story, how I was working with her, and her page was full of these Nas and Jay-Z videos. Alexis is supremely talented, and we're friends to this day. All right, back to the story. Not sure he knows this, but I am thankful for that. As we are leaving, I see headshots professionally taken of himself and his girlfriend, Lori Jo, rest in peace, who I would like to say was always extremely kind and polite to me, exceptionally talented, had a smile that glowed and radiated across the sky, and treated others the same as she did me. I've never actually met anybody who had a bad word to say about her. You may have heard High Power with Kendrick, or Phenomenon with Schoolboy Q, Empathy with Ab and Javante. She's Who Book of Soul was about. I digress. Unbeknownst to me, Ab-So tells everybody to look out for me, as I am extremely dope. I thank him for that, and we head back to Delamo. After a brief trip to the gas station for Black and Milds, we arrive on what I was told was Ed's block, and we got out, and there's another car and people hanging out, and I recall Magic being in one of those cars, and I hear him say, "Is that Stefan?" which is my name, in a shocked tone. We dap each other up. Ab passes the CD with the music just recorded, had his stuff and what Grim just recorded. After smoking, we get back in the car and head down Avalon. Now, I can't recall if it was at this point after we left Centerview, because Avalon leads to Delamo and Centerview, and you can also take the street turning on Victoria, heading to Stevenson Village. Now, name of that time was Not Trite or Knowistrite. That came a little later. For a little while, I was No Name, KNOW, and changed it to Permian. Ab-So was still going by Absolute this time, I believe, but he told me that my rap name was stupid and asked what it meant. I then broke down the Permian extinction, and he tells me people won't know that and it would just be confusing. Tell me that I had to change it to a name where I could visualize people chanting it while I perform. I thought that was deep and profound. I've never thought of that. I actually took that advice to heart and extremely seriously. Now, while we're driving down to Stevenson Village, I then back to the first time I was at Top Dog's house. And yes, this was not my first time there. Look out for the story about my first time meeting Top Dog. Anywho, I'm curious about where this will go. TD at this time was really just J-Rock and K-Dot. Ab himself was not officially there, and I cannot recall if Bo was there yet. Now, how is that for a name? For only true TDE fans will know. Now, we pull up, and we're having a discussion about recording styles. This stuck in my head because there's a Daylight video about him being in the studio with Ab and him not writing and him thinking thoughts and having the rhymes. I've seen a video saying he was channeling demons and other dimensions and practicing witchcraft. I know this much. Whenever you practice something, the bond between the brain cells strengthens, the neurons communicate faster and more efficiently, and this transmutes into physical abilities becoming heightened, skills cultivated, senses sharpened. I said that to say this. Ab was telling me at this time he only wrote his records, but he did not write for features, and he can feel the beat more when he does not write and he feels less restricted. Therefore, with his eyesight issues and him already practicing not writing for years, to hear he's not writing and just thinks of them was not a surprising conclusion for myself. Back to the story. We get out the car. Nobody answers the door. He seems a little confused as they record every night. Then he says they're not there and they must be at the other studio working on K-Dot's album. He checks his phone and I ask another studio in a quizzical tone. And he stated that Kendrick was actually signed to Def Jam, and they sometimes recorded at another studio. Now, this was news to me. J-Rock was on Atlantic, but I had zero idea Kendrick was signed to Def Jam. Sidebar, I think Punch mentioned that in an interview about that meeting, and Kendrick maybe once or twice, but surprisingly not common knowledge, which is wild because I looked for the picture of Kendrick at the office, and there's an article saying it was 2004 when Kendrick was 17. Not sure how the timeline on that adds up because that would put that before J-Rock Watt's Finest Volume 1 from 2006, but hard to remember years while talking in an interview, and I myself have the luxury of sitting here thinking about what was happening in my life and being able to see if timelines make sense. But after getting back into the car, he then tells me that he could have been on Black Wall Street Volume 1, but they were not able to contact him. The night Game showed up with your boy Juice and Dub for the song, with a cypher where they rapped over the Busta Rhymes beat because he didn't have his phone, or his phone was broke, or he didn't have a phone at all. I remember thinking that was crazy because that would have been a real great look for him. So I almost met J-Rock and Kendrick this night, but that was not in the cards. We get back in the car and head back to Gardena. We dap each other, and that was that. Like I mentioned earlier, I checked out Alexis Carrington MySpace and messaged her about hearing her beats with Absol. And also I went to K-Dot page to see if there was anything about Def Jam. And lo and behold, there was a picture with him and the Def Jam logo behind him. Now, I'd also like to give a shout out to some of the mutual people who went to school with us. The idea of this video was a while ago, but I saw Python P on Instagram and DM'd him because I stopped making music and said that we might have to do something, and he was very positive about it and told me to keep going. A shout out to Kyle, who was also extremely positive with his words. So let me know if you made it to the end of the video. I know a lot of his fans want to smoke with them or sit in the studio with them. Shout out to Herbert Stevens III for always being incredibly positive and recognizing my talent, even though I was fighting my own demons, which I may touch upon at another time. Now, lessons from this story that I reflect on is the power of visualization. Absol mentioning that I have to visualize people chanting my name. Adaptability, when Top Dog was not home and no one was at the studio, Ab did not seem physically dejected or upset. It was just matter-of-factly things for the night changed. Kindness and meaning well. Abs and myself disagreement from the comment made was not with ill intent, and the phone call reassured the guy was just speaking his mind with the best intentions. Feel free to like, share, comment, and subscribe. There are links in the description if you would like to support the channel via Cashapp, merch, or some selections on electronics, anything. Everything is valued and appreciated. Nothing is taken for granted. If you got anything else from this story, let me know in the comments what lessons you learned, because basically in my time, spending time with Ab, not just that night, but all around, the guy was always jovial and kind, 100% supportive of other people. You don't get far in life being a hater, and I can't really say anything bad about him because I really didn't have bad experiences with Ab. I mean, this was like the closest one we had, and it was just a misunderstanding. And he was very kind, and he was very much extending his arm to me, and it was cool. It was an awesome night. If you want to hear any of the other stories I referenced, you can come back to the channel. Once again, please feel free to support, like, comment, share, subscribe. Enjoy yourselves. Have a great, great, great day, wherever you are in this world.